It looks so different on on a laptop than it does on your phone. But I am live. It's freaking working. Oh, it took me a minute to figure it out. I was using AVG, like a different browser, and it was like, you cannot access your camera from this browser. I was like, okay. So I had to go into a different one. I'm just trying to see how many people are on. This looks so different on a laptop than it does on your phone. Like, I feel like there's a lot more options here, but let's see what's going on. Okay, if anyone is on with me, if you could type in the chat, that would be fantastic. And just say, I'm on. There are options. Okay. We'll wait for a little bit to see who pops on. It says I've been on for 1 minute and 44 seconds already. Yay, Renee's here. Josh is here. Oh, yay. There are actually people here. That's a good thing. I was like, I'm just going to talk to myself for an hour. You know, it works. What are you guys drinking tonight? What do you have with you? Beer, wine, hard liquor, tea, coffee. I have tea, peppermint tea. Hi, Lenny. Oh my God, it's so good to see you. That's so awesome. If you can hear me, tell me what you're drinking. What's in your cup? Wine, of course, Josh. Water, good. Stay hydrated. All right, so we're just going to answer some questions that I got from a bunch of people in the group. I thought it would be fun to do it this way. In case anything pops up while I'm talking, feel free to ask some questions or make comments or, tell me about your day, whatever. So today it seemed like I had a lot of, Renee's drinking water too. Yeah. I had a lot of questions about listening, which is really great. Why does it say messaging is disabled for this page? What the heck does that mean? I don't know what that means. Facebook changes like everything all the time. It's so annoying. All right, so listening. I had a lot of questions about listening, either wanting to be a better listener or wanting to figure out how to get your spouse to listen, which is quite a feat, right? So I'm gonna actually read off some. I'm not gonna tell people who asked the questions, so don't worry. If you ever ask me questions, it'll stay anonymous. I'm just gonna read the question and then I'll talk about it a little bit. So, all right. So first question was, I feel like my husband doesn't actually listen to what I say. It almost seems like he is either half listening or pretending to listen. Sometimes it's okay when I'm just talking about nothing. I talk a lot. But other times I have really important things I need to get across to him, and he either forgets what I said or totally didn't hear me. What are some ways to get him to actually hear what I'm saying? So, yeah, big problem, especially if we've been together for a while and we live together and we have a lot of things going on, a lot of stressors in our life, or just a lot of things we have to think about and have to deal with. It's really easy to not hear completely what our spouse is saying or our partner is saying. And a lot of times they try to be nice. Like they don't want to get you mad, or they don't want to sound like they're mean or that they're dismissing you. So they just kind of half listen. If you ever had that happen where somebody's just like not really listening to you, you're like, did you even hear what I said? And they're just kind of like, uh-huh, yeah, okay, uh-huh. Yeah. If you just joined in, or if you're watching this in the replay, still chat with us. Let us know you're on. All right. So the first thing you probably want to do in situations like that is you want to see if they're actually in a space to listen, right? When you want to talk, you want to make sure the person is able to listen to you. And when you're not always in the right space, mentally, emotionally, even physically, right? So you could be, you might be actually there, but not actually fully engaged because you're thinking about 100 other things that are going on, or you're just kind of like, a lot of people right now are just calming down from the stress of their day and maybe ruminating on things or playing back things or thinking about things that they have to do the next day. Your mind's going, we have lots of layers of thought, so it's really easy to be distracted. And emotionally too. So if you feel stress weighs on you in so many ways that it makes it hard for you to want to listen to somebody. Has anyone ever had that issue where you're feeling so stressed that you just can't listen? Stress is such an interesting thing, and I want to do some lessons around stress too, but it's like it causes you, it's kind of that fight or flight situation. It puts you into a very narrow space where you can only focus on what's in front of you, which is really good when you need to get something done in emergency situations, but it's really hard when you need to like either multitask or just even take in your surroundings and be very present with like everything going on, right? So stress can get in the way there. So just ask them, like when you want to talk to them and you want their attention, just ask them, hey, is this a good time to talk about something? It's really that simple. And create an open space for them to be able to say no. Like, it's totally okay if you can't right now. We'll just find another time, right? But it's also okay then to ask them, well, when do you think it would be a good time? Do you think we could chat right before bed? We're gonna put the kids to sleep or whatever. You could do that too. So just check in with them verbally, ask them, and it'll feel like you're respecting them and their needs and where they are versus just bulldozing over and like throwing up all the information you want to tell them in the moment when they're not ready to hear it. So allowing them to be able to say, no, I'm not in a good space right now. And then also like letting them know what you need. So especially for women, but I don't want to just put women in that category because men do it too. Josh does it all the time. I love you, Josh. But like this venting thing, right? Like there's just like this when we have things that have happened that have caused us issues throughout the day, or we just want to get things out, right? We want to get them off of our chest, and we just want to like talk them out verbally versus thinking about them in our head. And that is a very different kind of conversation or communication that we're having with our spouse in that moment. And sometimes our partner has no idea how to respond to that, right? Like do I give advice? Do I make them feel better? What do I do in this moment? So sometimes it's really good to think about letting them know ahead of time. What I need from you now, I just need to vent. I just need you to listen to me right now because I got so many things that happened today and it was annoying me, and I just got to tell you what happened. And ask them, like, is this a good time to vent to you, right? And then you can also tell them, well, I want to have a back and forth conversation. Are you in the mental space to actually talk about, getting the new roof put on our house or something, right? Can you give me that much bandwidth to be able to talk right now about something like that? Or maybe you're just like, you had a really amazing thing that happened, right? Like, I finally finished this thing that I had been trying to do for so long, and they're super excited about it, and you just want to tell them, let them know, like, I don't need advice. I just want you to be my cheerleader. I want you to be excited with me in this moment. And sometimes, they need to know, like, am I trying to solve a problem? Am I just listening? Am I trying to be a cheerleader for you? What do you need right now? So if you let them know that ahead of time, then it's, nicer. It's easier for them to like know what to do as you start talking, and it'll like put them in the right state of mind too. So like, okay, I know what I'm going to do right now. I'm not worried about doing the wrong thing. Sometimes people get worried about saying the wrong thing or not saying the right thing when you're having conversations, and that's a lot of anxiety, and we have a lot to talk about with that too. So then, like, there are a lot of times too where you need to, like, there's a doctor appointment for our daughter next week, and we have to run this race the week after, and we have all these things we have to set up, and I got to call the plumber and all this stuff, right? And so you're kind of like unloading a lot of information that you need them to memorize or remember. Like, remember to pick up milk tomorrow, right? So, and again, if they're not in the right space, or they're just not somebody who remembers things. Like, I hear this a lot in my couples, like in relationships, especially women get really annoyed with men who can't remember what they said. And a lot of times they think, like, they take it personally. Like, oh my gosh, I told you to pick up milk. Why didn't you remember that? And because you didn't remember that, that means you don't love me. And a lot of times it's like, no, they just have a really bad memory and they don't remember a lot of things, and it has nothing to do with you. So be gentle with them, give them the benefit of the doubt, and maybe think about finding a new way to tell them or remind them to get the things done that you need them to get done, like having a poster board or white erase board or scheduled messages. I've done that with Josh several times where, like, I remember I have to remind him to pick up the groceries. So I'll forget to remind him. So I'll schedule it as a scheduled text. Most phones can do that, so that at 4:59, he gets a message that says, don't forget to pick up the groceries. And then I didn't even have to think about it again. So find different ways to be able to help them along the way. But the biggest thing is to not take it personally, right? All right, who's still with me? I'm surprised that I don't have more people on. It makes me sad. Where's all my group? I know where they are. It's so nice outside. If you're in Wisconsin, you're probably like out walking or hanging outside or trying to be out in the sun or something, sitting on your porch. All right, so let's talk about a few other questions. Does anybody have any questions as we're going along? No, I'm not seeing anything come through. I wish it would tell me who's actually still on. I can't see. I can just see like a number. So, all right. What else did we have? We had a whole bunch of questions around becoming a better listener. So, I hope to become a better listener. Another one was, I need help being a better listener, not getting distracted and staying in the moment. How can I listen to my wife when they talk about things I'm not interested in? That's a big one, right? Okay, so let's talk about listening in general. So we can break listening down into 3 levels, level 1, 2, and 3. Level 1 listening is what I would call is subjective. So I would call that the I listening. It's where when you're listening to someone, you're just relating it to yourself. Everything has to do with you. Like, it's all about how I think about it, how I feel about it, my perspectives. What does this have to do with me? That kind of listening is extremely popular everywhere in the world, and especially in relationships, and it can be troublesome. So that's the I-based listening, is level 1 subjective. There's times for that, but it's pretty troublesome. So then the level 2 listening is going to be objective listening. Objective listening is what we would call the they listening. So it's where you're fully focused on what they're saying. Like, what is my partner talking about right now? I'm like totally focused on only what they're saying to me and nothing else, right? Not relating it back to myself or anything, right? And then level 3 is the active listening. And this is high level listening that you don't see very often. And when you find people who can actively listen to you, you feel like, this is my best friend. This person gets me. Active listening is listening with everything. So taking into account all of, like body language, tone of voice. It's basically hearing what somebody's saying behind what somebody's saying. So you're using your intuition along with all of the verbal cues or body language cues too. So active listening is paying attention to, like, what does this person really want from me in the moment, or what are they feeling in this moment, or what engaging with them on like a deeper level. And that's really hard to find. Most people, like I said, are subjective. If you guys are listening, if you heard the 3, what do you think you do most often? Level 1, 2, or 3 with your partner? And do you understand? Like, did I make that clear? Like what each of those levels are? There might be a delay also while I'm talking, so I'm not quite sure if you guys are hearing me at the same time I'm talking. I'm not seeing any messages, so I don't know if it turned off. Oh, wait. Oh my gosh. I have to scroll. Like, why don't I see anything? I thought it would just pop up, but no, I have to scroll. So people are talking. And hi, Lindsay. Yes, asking before just starting to talk has been helpful. Oh, good. Oh my gosh, I totally missed everyone's comments. I'm so sorry. Oh, good. And people were commenting 2, 2, and 3. All right. So 2 we think is such a good thing, right? But 2 can lead to trouble when you're fully focused on what somebody else is saying. You're not relating it back to yourself. It's really easy to lose interest, for one thing. And then also it becomes like a one-sided conversation, because you're only looking at what the other person is saying. You're not relating it back to yourself. So there's not this back and forth kind of flow of conversation or getting each other. So 2 it's better than 1, obviously, because 1 is very self-centered in a lot of ways, obviously, but it's not as good as being able to have. And with 2, you can have a lot of shallow conversations. So it's really hard to get to the core root of things or get deep into something or have really fun conversations with somebody if you're only just listening to what they're saying. And even if you're just like agreeing with them, it's not engaging, right? So think about being a more active listener, listening for, ask yourself the question, like, what is this person saying behind what they're saying? And try not to make that a negative assumption, because I'm sure that that's pretty easy to do. Feel like, what are they really trying to do? That when you feel somebody's trying to sell you something, you're like, all right, what do they really want from me? So try to give them the benefit of the doubt. Always give your partner the benefit of the doubt in a relationship, that what they're trying to say is a positive thing. But see where they're coming from. So it's good. I don't think I have to scroll anymore. Oh, Chrissy's on. Hi, Chrissy. So good to see you. Josh says, what's a good way to elevate levels mid-conversation? Elevate. What do you mean by that? Elevate. Like how to go from level 2 to level 3, are you saying? Type away and let me know. Or just come upstairs and ask me. You're cute. I love it. Okay, so then we had the I need help being a better listener, not getting distracted, and staying in the moment. So there's a few things that you can do with this, as in going from 2 to 3. Oh yeah, so he said, how do you elevate from 2 to 3 mid-conversation? And if you notice that you're in 1 or 2 and you want to move to 3, then take a step back and just say to yourself, what are they saying behind what they're saying? And try to listen to your gut instinct, because this is, like I said, intuitive listening. So you're really thinking about, like, what do they need from me? What's the point that they're trying to get across? How are they feeling right now about what they're saying? If you're asking yourself those questions, you don't have to ask them out loud. I mean, it might not be a bad idea to ask out loud, but if you're asking yourself those questions, then usually it'll be easier to take in all of what's happening. And making a conscious effort to pay attention to, like, facial features. Like, we're very expressive in our faces, right? That's one of the things they can't get right with AI right now, is because You can tell if they're a robot because of the way their facial expressions don't work real great. So, like, raising your eyebrows when you're saying a certain thing, like that means something else than just sitting there like this, So pay attention to their facial expressions. Body language is a big deal. If somebody's got their arms crossed and they're talking to you, that's a totally different energy that they're giving off, an emotion that they're probably feeling than if they're just like sitting back, relaxed, like, hey, totally different, right? And it can be different on their tone of voice as well. So when you say, just think about the word what, right? So if you say what, or what, or what, like those are all, that's the exact same word, but your tone of voice and your inflection and your cadence in there, like all of that changes the meaning behind words. So try not to pay attention to only words, but pay attention to everything around the words, right? All right. So Lenny says, did that answer your question, Josh? You're a really good active listener, so I don't even know why you would even question that. What if you would like your partner to go from a 1 or a 2 to a 3? It's so hard to try to get somebody else to do something that you want them to do or behave in a way that you would like them to behave. And it's one of the biggest issues that I'm finding on a regular basis with everyone in the group has expressed the exact same thing. And it's like their biggest frustration or obstacle is that like their partner is not listening or not wanting to change or not wanting to communicate right or isn't getting them. And that's so frustrating. But I think the first thing to do is to set a good example. If you can be a really good active listener, which, like I said, most people aren't, if you can learn to actively listen and to give that to your partner on a regular basis, like do that. Because after a while of that continuing to happen, then it becomes like they pick up on it, right? They're noticing that the way that you're listening and the way that you're getting them works for them and it feels good. So usually the law of reciprocity will come into play and they will want to give that back to you, or they'll pick up that habit that you're creating. Couples do a lot of things. Like we pick up habits from each other all the time. I noticed that with, so you notice like how sometimes people's dogs can look like the person. I always feel like sometimes like that, like for some reason, you just like your dog will start to look like you. Have you ever seen those pictures where people's dog looks just like them? I don't know if this is a really stupid example, but I feel like in couples that happens the same way. Like I'll hear the way people start to talk or the way they communicate, the way they even think, their belief systems can start to meld together or play off of each other really well. So we're always influencing the people in our lives constantly. So if you become a better listener, it would be very hard for your partner to not become a better listener. Now, there's a certain level of stubbornness. There's a certain level of maybe awareness, or they might be willing but not able, and they need to have like an actual lesson. So if they're open to it, to learning more about being a better listener, and then you can actually sit them down and say, hey, I'd love to like be a better listener with you. Maybe we can learn to listen to each other equally, and we can kind of figure out how to do that. And maybe I can come up with some exercises for listening, like some fun games to play with for couples. I don't know if you guys would be interested in that, but something like, so saying something and then maybe your partner has to like interpret it for what you really meant behind it and what your emotion was behind it and what you were wanting behind it. That might be kind of fun. But yeah, so then, and just explaining to them, hey, like that is a really good practice in relationships, is to be able to say, well, what I really need in this moment is like I just need you, I just need to feel heard, right? Or I just need this. And that's kind of like a training, I guess. It sounds rude saying training, but it is. I mean, we're constantly training each other. Like we're always working to have people relate to us in certain ways, or that's how we start creating relationships, right? Is in knowing how to relate to each other. So anyways, so maybe actually sitting down and saying, hey, would you be interested in learning a little bit more about how to listen better or communicate? I mean, communication just seems like a better way of saying it, even though listening is like the most important part of communication. Obviously, how we talk is important, but how we're listening is 10 times as important, right? So hopefully that was helpful, Lenny. Did that help a little bit? Let me know in the comments below. I have to keep scrolling up to see that it's working. Okay, so what was the question? I need help being a better listener, not getting distracted and staying in the moment. Okay, so we talked about wanting your partner to be in a good space and be able to listen to you. So you want to be able to make sure you're in a good space too, so that you can listen to your partner. So again, making sure you're not under stress, you're not chaotic, thinking about other things. You know, you're not hangry, like you're not thinking about like, got to feed the kids or I got to get some sleep or whatever. Like make sure that you're in a good state physically, mentally, emotionally. And if you're not, like, be sure to just tell your partner, like, the best thing you can say to your partner is like, I really want to listen. This is good for kids too. I really want to hear what you have to say right now, but I can't. Like, I'm just not mentally here right now, but I really want to hear you. So they don't feel rejected or dismissed or don't feel valued or loved. They know that you want to, but that, that you're willing, but you're just not able to at that moment. So that's a really helpful thing to say to anyone who's trying to get your attention or trying to talk to you, and you know that you can't right then, rather than just pretending to or half listening. Just let them know, and then give them a time. Again, give them a time that you'll come back to them. So like, I can't listen right now, but as soon as I get dinner done and when I get the kids in bed, then we can sit down with a glass of wine, and then I want to hear all about your day, right? So just letting them know where you are emotionally, and if you're able to actually talk, that will help to have you be more present, right? And not be distracted in that moment. You can also focus on like what you want the outcome to be. So if they're going on and on about something and it's like, I don't know, cars or something, and you're just like, oh, this is so boring, right? Like you can focus on what does this person need from me right now? Like, oh, he's so excited to tell me about this, and be engaged with that emotion that he's trying to get across to you, and that he's trying to share something with you. So, and again, I don't know if this person was talking about staying in the moment, like being distracted with something that needs to be heard, like when he's talking about something specific that needs to get done or something, like we got to call the roofing people or whatever, or if it is just chatting about his day or talking about something he's interested in. So, but try to be focused on what you want the outcome to be. So cars are boring, Josh. You can make anything interesting though. And I'll get to that in a minute. And then find ways to relate to them, like if it is something boring or that you feel is boring or is not the most interesting thing, try to find some ways to relate to it. So you can relate things back to yourself in some way. So if someone was talking about the guy who was trying to sell his car, and I always come up with stupid examples, so pardon me. And then you're like, oh, I remember when I had that happen to me, even though it's about a car or about that sort of situation. You can remember how something that you went through actually was similar, and that helps you to relate to them, right? Doesn't mean you have to say it out loud, but if you're thinking it in your mind and you're relating it to yourself a little bit, then that helps you connect with them. Yeah. So let me see what other questions were there. Did anyone else have any questions? Cars are fun to drive in, Josh, but can't memorize all of the years and makes and models, and it's fun to try, but I can't memorize it all. And so let's see then. How can I listen to my wife when she's talking about things I'm not interested in? So that's kind of the same thing we were talking about. So you see that goes both ways, right? It's not just gender. It's not just a male or a female, right? But again, I think this is about active listening. When somebody's talking to you about something that they're interested in, I might want to talk about all these shoes that I found that are just so amazing, and all these different colors and the heel styles, and I want to because I'm so excited about the shoes and they're so pretty, and I'm all worked up about it. I'm usually wanting to engage my partner in the emotion more than in the shoes. I don't need him to like shoes. I just want him to feel the vibe that I'm in that moment, right? Ride this wave of excitement about shoes with me. So some way of doing that, and even disappointment too. So if there's somebody said something that pissed your wife off, or she's disappointed in something, she didn't get the promotion or things like that, just be there emotionally with her in the moment. Normally this is an emotional thing more than anything. Being interested in what she's saying by being interested in her emotions. So if she's excited, be riding that train. If she's down and sad, be there for her empathetically and compassionately. So that helps. But, people just sometimes want to take you on a journey with them. I think it's a really good sign of a pretty healthy relationship if your partner wants to, especially if they're excited to tell you about things that are interesting to them that aren't interesting to you, really, because that they're oh, you're my go-to, right? You're my guy. I want to share my joy with you. I want to share this fun with you. I want to share this. And they just want you to they don't need anything other than come along on this joy ride with me and let's go have some fun. So usually that's, and what's wrong with that, right? Who cares if there's you actually learn anything or accomplish anything in the end, or figure something out. You're enjoying the journey of a conversation, which is what it's really about, right? There's the light keeps shining in my face. Any other questions? Did I miss anything? No? Any questions about listening, communicating, partner? Let me know along the way. Renee says, that's helpful. I don't know which part you said that to. So sorry, I didn't see it till now. But I'm glad it was helpful, whatever it was. And I had another question, which was, the same person said, also, when I'm listening to my wife and I try to relate it back to me to be engaged, to be engaged with her, she gets defensive and says I'm selfish and not really listening to her. So it sounds like that's, again, that level 1 listening. Normally, if somebody is complaining that you're selfish and not really listening to what they're saying, it's probably because they're not feeling heard. And that normally is an emotional need, not that you're actually not hearing her, but usually that you're not emotionally hearing what she's going through or what she needs in that moment. So when you turn it around on yourself, I hate to use examples with Josh, but it's he's in chat, so I want to use an example. I think that happened the other day, if you remember. What was it? I think was I stressed about something, and I was just relating my stress, and then he said something yeah, we're all stressed, or something like that. And I'm that was the wrong thing to say in that moment. Do you remember, Josh? But in that moment, all I needed from him, and he realized right away that was not the right thing to say. But all I needed in that moment, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're so stressed, hon. That's it. I just needed the emotion to be validated. That's it. I just need, so that was it. I just needed to feel you're hearing that I'm upset, and I needed to have a little bit of like compassion towards what I was feeling. That's all I needed in that moment. But if you turn it around on yourself, it's like, okay, you're ignoring what they're actually needing in that moment. That's what it feels like to them. Like, why aren't you paying attention to what I need? You're not helping me out by turning it around on yourself and making it about you. So there is a point in the conversation where relating to it is really important, but not until the emotional need is met first. So always address the emotion in the conversation. If you don't listen to anything else I say in this whole live, always address the emotion of the conversation before doing anything else. So that's really, really, really important. Yeah. I think that's all the questions about listening that I had. We got through them pretty fast. Oh, what if we got another question? What would you say is a good way for people to hear the emotion versus the words? Why don't you tell me? That's a really tough one because most people are not even self-aware of their emotions. So it's really tough to figure out what other people's emotions are, what they're going through, right? So if I don't even know my own emotions, how am I supposed to know what anyone else is feeling? So I would say your first step is make sure you're learning about self-awareness of your own emotions, right? You'd be surprised how many people can't identify their own emotions, especially in words. Like they can't translate that outwardly. Like if you ask someone how they're doing, they're going to say good, fine, okay, but those aren't emotions, right? Those are like generalities. What are you emotionally feeling right now? Like I would love to ask, there's 6 people on this live right now. What are you emotionally feeling right now in this moment? And there might be layers to it. It might not be one emotion, but what are you feeling right now? What's coming up for you? So once you can start to identify your own emotions in yourself and knowing like how that comes out. So does your face change? Like, you know, like I was talking about facial expressions, tone of voice. Your tone of voice is going to make a change. If you're feeling something different, we talked about that with the word what, right? That can mean a billion different things. Chill. Josh is feeling chill. That's a mood, I guess. It's not really an emotion. Like an emotion would be like happy or sad or glad or excited or disappointed or fearful or angry or anything like that. But I guess we could put chill up there. Relaxed. That could be I don't know if you would call that an emotion still. It's more like a mood, but I'm not hearing anyone else's moods right now. Nobody is saying anything. Where are you all? How are you feeling? That you're oh shoot. I moved the whole thing. Okay. Cool. See, there's that emotion. You are happy. You're feeling chill and happy that you're chill. And so then you're identifying why. So that's a really good explanation there. Like you're happy that you're chill. In a mood and I'm feeling something about that mood, right? That's good. Anyone else? No one else. Everybody else is just blank. That's what happens when you do lives. All right. So that's one thing then, paying attention to how their tone of voice, their facial expressions, their body language, that helps to kind of identify what they're actually meaning. But then you have to clarify because it's different for everybody. You know, there's certain faces that I make where, you know, I do this thing, like that kind of looks bitchy, you know, when I do this, like, but I'm just thinking, like, I'm just curious. That's my curious face usually, or I have a headache. But it's different in everyone. So try not to be negatively assumptions, right? And then so if you follow up and ask them, so like, are you mad right now? Or are you feeling upset? right? Ask them. And then get that feedback, and then you'll know next time when she makes that face, it means she's got a headache or she's confused or curious, but not angry. So Renee says she's excited to learn new relationship tools. Yeah, that's the best answer ever. Chill's a good answer too, but excited to learn new stuff is good. Well, I have one more question if nobody else has anything before we wrap up. I'm really surprised we got through all of that in 40 minutes or less. So the last question I got from somebody was about getting their partner to open up. So it was, why don't some men feel free to share their feelings and have trouble understanding how to handle the woman's emotions and feelings? So kind of relates back to what Josh was asking about determining the difference between how they're really feeling, what their words actually mean, versus what they're saying, right? It's tough, especially for men, because I hate putting people into gender boxes, but I know this person and they're an older couple, and that's like, they were raised in an era where it was very traditional genders usually, and men and boys were not taught they weren't taught to pay attention to their emotions at all. And they weren't taught that emotions were even okay to have. They were raised in an era where it's like, rub some dirt in it, get back up, get out there, and don't cry. Crying's for sissies and stuff like that, I'm sure that it was taught with good intentions, right? That's what they've always learned, or what they figured out how to do, or what they needed to do. But it was really, it's been tough to rework that cycle. If you guys have little boys that you're raising, teach them to be emotionally aware. Like, ask them, what do you feel? Let them know that it's okay to feel whatever it is that they're feeling. And so that's probably one of the first issues with getting him to open up, is most likely that he doesn't even know, he can't open up about his emotions because he doesn't even know what his emotions are. He doesn't realize it. He senses stuff. Like, you can sense something in you, but you can't really put your finger on what it means, or like, it's almost like a language that you have to learn. Emotional awareness is like a language. To be able to translate what you're feeling into words it's not easy, and not a lot of people can do it. So, especially men, it's sad. So I mean, hopefully you could start to really listen behind what he's saying, and get to know, again, those subtle cues of body language, tone of voice, things like that. That's really important. But also creating like a safe space. I always say this for opening. The sun is like coming and the curtain's not closed. I always say this for trying to get anyone to open up, whether it is your spouse or your coworkers or your children. They have to trust you. There has to be a layer of trust. And when I say trust, it doesn't mean that you're not going to cheat on them or something. No, trusting really means like, they have to be able to know that you're going to feel that they're going to be well received by whatever they say to you. You're not going to look down on them. You're not going to judge them, but also that you're not going to respond erratically, So if creating a safe space means like, he can come to me and tell me that he's disappointed in something that I did, and I'm not going to like immediately flip out. There's a lot of men who won't talk to their spouses because they don't want to deal with the emotional backlash that they're going to get from them, right? Whether it be anger or frustration, disappointment, or sadness. A lot of men are very, they're protectors, in the relationship, and they don't want to hurt their spouse. So they try to keep things to themselves so that it doesn't come out the wrong way or isn't going to hurt them. So we can create a safe space by letting them know, like, I might be upset right now. You have a right to still be upset, right? But saying, you know, like, I'm just upset right now, and that's okay. Like, letting him know that your emotions are okay to have, and that it's not going to like change how you feel about them, or that, you know, like, it just letting them know that it's okay for him to open up, but also okay for you to have the emotions to have, which was the second part of your question, which was they have trouble handling women's emotions and feelings. And, you know, that's a lot of times is because they are feeling what you're feeling. They feel responsible for your feelings. Believe it or not, a lot of husbands, or a lot of men do. A lot of women do too, but this is specifically asking about the husband. So, and so they feel like, you know, it's their job to make sure that she never cries and she never gets angry. And that is an unreasonable job to give to yourself. It is not your job to do that. But we can help our spouse by letting them know, I'm going to be okay either way. And that I'm okay with having all the emotions that I have, and that I'm going to, you know, like, be fine in the end. Like, I'm going to just go have a pity party and cry about it for a minute, but it isn't going to change our relationship. It's not going to cause permanent damage in me. I'm a big girl. I can handle it. That kind of attitude. Does that make sense? Hopefully that person's on and listening to this, or listens to it in the replay. So being really sympathetic to the fact that they're not emotionally aware necessarily, that they do want the best for you. They're trying not to hurt you. So helping and opening up, I'm guessing, you know, opening up emotionally, knowing that you're creating that safe space for it to be heard, and then you're not going to talk about it to other people too. So I have a lot of like clients where one of the partners is really close to either like a family member or their whole family, right? And so their spouse is afraid to open up to them because they know that anything that they say to them, it's going to go right back to the family. And so that is also doesn't feel safe, right? It doesn't feel like what happens between us stays between us. So creating that safe space of security, I keep saying safe space, but you get, obviously that's the point. So that's the kind of fortress around your relationship where, like, what happens in the relationship stays in the relationship, right? Like, I'm not going to go tattle to my best friend every time you say something that bothers me, or front of you behind your back or something like that, right? We want to treat our spouses in a really good way. So good. Hopefully that was really helpful. Be patient with them and encourage them to open up, you know, let them know, like, it's just letting them over and over again. It's okay to open up to me. You can tell me how you're feeling, and it's okay for you not to. You know, some it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks sometimes. And so just love them anyways. You know, you don't need them to open up to you emotionally in order to be able to, and tell you how they're feeling about, you know, that they stub toe every 5 seconds, right? In order for you to have a good relationship. So just accept that that's part of who he is, and love him for that. And I know this guy, and he's actually very emotional, and he's extremely loving. He's not verbal about it, but he will tell you in other ways. Like, you can feel it from him. So look for where the emotion is, and not always need it to come out in words. I think I talked about that in the 5 love languages. We all speak different love languages. So pay attention to hearing your spouse's language, not just needing them to speak yours. That's really important, right? All right, any other questions before we go? We're at 49 minutes. We're coming up on the end here. I have 9 people in the live. 9 people. It's pretty exciting to be hanging out with 9 people when we've been social distancing for so long. I feel so like, wow, so great. I'm in a group of people here. Anybody who's on the live who wants to just say hi, please just say hi. Let me know you're on. I can't see who it is. So I was just going to wait a couple more seconds to see if anybody's got any questions that pop up, because there's a little bit of a delay on here. So But otherwise, ooh, it's going to get me to leave the page. Stay on the page. With you guys, have a little chat about relationships and communicating. It was really fun. Next time, Josh actually be on. Jesus, this is such a sensitive little computer here. Jeez. Instead of just on chat, maybe he can come on camera. Let me know if you're interested in having my sweetie with me. He is extremely smart, very emotionally aware, extremely emotionally intelligent. And he's got a lot that he can tell you from a man's perspective. So if all you men's out there want to hear stuff from his side, I'm sure he could help out a lot. So let me know if you're interested in that too. And we'll probably try to drag him on camera at some point too. Hi, Tim. Oh, it's good to see you. I haven't heard from you in so long. You're doing well. All right, you guys. Well, if you need anything after this live, if you're listening to this after it's been live, you're listening to the replay, please say hi. Please, answer some of the questions that I threw out there for you. And let me know if you need anything along the way. It's a little bit of a silent group because I think people are feeling, like they don't want to talk about their deepest, darkest secrets in the middle of a group of strangers. So I get that. So I'm getting a lot of like private messages, and that's totally okay. Send me private messages with questions that you have or anything that you need or want me to address within the group. Usually any question you have is probably something that somebody else is having too. So don't feel shy about doing that. All right, you guys, it was good to see you, and I hope to see you again. Make sure you turn on notifications for our group so you see all of the notifications of everything that I post. A lot of people are missing that. If you're not friends with me on Facebook, on my personal page, please friend me on my personal page, Sheri Maass, because that's going to be I'll be sending you messages on direct messenger from there, and sometimes you won't get them if I'm not your friend. So yeah, so it's good seeing you guys, and I will talk to you later if I can figure out how to end this thing. Stay safe, stay happy.